What's up, everybody? I'm so excited about today's podcast because it's the second of probably some more that are going to happen about my trip to Egypt. And this is with the other guy that I was so incredibly fortunate and excited to meet and become friends with, ultimately, Patricia Lehman. She is also studied with Abdel Hakeim the indigenous wisdom holder that she met there. I think it was in 2005. And so, this whole thing is matriarchal system. So I love having the feminine perspective on all of this stuff. And so let me read her bio real quick. Patricia is from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and was always surrounded by and totally in love with nature. They lived out in the woods, I gather. She had been seeking answers to her questions about the nature of our reality, emphasis on nature, since early childhood through the study of the esoteric sciences, as well as the physical sciences, mathematics, comparative religions, ancient literature, mythology, art history, and symbolism. Having worked as an architectural artist for several years, she learned much about the energetic nature of structure, color theory, and how we experience the world around us through our visual sense. She explored the physics of color further, as well as the principles of digital technology when she worked as a color specialist and senior account manager, marketing digital copiers, printers, and software. She became a student of chemitology, which is Hakeem's. Uh, it's really their title. That Egypt is a Greek name. That the ancient name for Egypt, what they called it was Khemit. So they call it chemitology. She became a student of chemitology after meeting world-renowned indigenous knowledge holder Abdel Hakeim Al-Yan on her first trip to Egypt in 2005. Her journey has taken her to places all over the world: Egypt, Spain, France, Scotland, England, Ireland, Italy, Turkey, Peru, Bolivia, Lebanon, Jordan, Australia, New Zealand, and Cambodia, only to discover that there was a very ancient civilization worldwide that left these same clues with similar structures and symbols defined by different labels and icons, but all virtually telling us the same story of who we are and where we came from. You can find her at Horus Rising. I love their website, Horus, Horus, the Falcon, HorusRising.com was created as a platform to share years of continuing research and study of the ancient symbolism, mythology, and structures of ancient Khemit and other ancient cultures globally, based on a foundation left by indigenous knowledge holder Abdel Hakeim Al-Yan. I present to you Patricia Lehman. Get ready. All right, I'm so glad to have Patricia Lehman here. I can't even tell you what an honor this is and how lucky I felt to be able to get on that tour. And I'm just a huge fan. I don't normally fanboy out on people, but forgive me if I do a little bit. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, I'm honored to be here, and you know how much I love you and your spirit. So yeah, this it's great fun to spend
Yeah.
this time with you.
Well, you're back in North Carolina now, right?
I am, yeah, I'm I'm in a state of flux, visiting my sister. My brother lives here. I have friends that came in over the holidays, and I go back to Egypt next week.
Nice. I love it. Well, I'm glad to have you here. Stephen Mailer's in Denver. You're in North Carolina. I feel like, man, we're actually close to each other. I can just call and text and stuff. So this is
Oh,
great. Well, um, I want to get started really just with my own personal questions. I do want people to see pictures of the tour and get a sense of um, what happened while we were there. But just to go back a little in your background, like where were you born and raised? How did you get into Egypt and all this stuff?
wow.
I
It's a
don't know.
lot. I was raised in Quakertown, Pennsylvania, but really not Quakertown, 8 miles out of Quakertown, which is somewhere in between Allentown and Philly.
Yeah,
And we called it being out in the boondocks. We were 8 miles from town. My dad bought this old stone home that, had parts from like the early 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, and then he added on. And he had lakes built in or created out of the marshland and down the hill in our backyard. So I grew up in nature. He built these lakes. They stocked them with fish. And we used to sit by the lakes, row around the lakes. I mean, nature, it was my father's God, more or less. Um, Not that we didn't go to church, which is a whole other story because I had so many conflicts within that dynamic. But that was the beginning of my quest. So yeah, I grow up in nature, which they couldn't find me sometimes. I would be out in the middle of the woods, where's Patricia? And everybody's looking around and I'm out literally in the middle of the rocks, moving debris out of a stream so it could flow, this kind of thing. So this deep connection to the cycles of nature. And my father, who knew everything, every name of every tree, and he was just such a genius. And I would go out and plant hundreds, if not thousands, of trees with him, and he would tell me why we were doing it. So you can almost understand. And he was an artist. He was actually a famous artist. And so this is it. With that being my background, it was just I was always on a quest to know who I was, where I came from, what is this? What is this?
yes.
And then he used to get these wonderful books. He'd get National Geographic and all the coffee table books. And when I saw my first pictures of Egypt, and literally just not a toddler, but very young before preteen, and I saw the pictures of Egypt. I knew it was home. It was undeniable. I started naming all my pets after Egyptian waters. I was, Halloween, who am I going to be this year? But yeah, that was my life. So it's no mistake. The funniest thing is I waited until I was in my very late 40s to actually, I waited until the voice said, okay, it's time. You have to go to Egypt now. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going, took the first opportunity to go. I spent my time really developing who I was doing, no matter what job I was working as an artist, as a digital expert, as so many different things, color specialist. I was all these things. And
Wow.
then suddenly it's time. Meanwhile, growing my metaphysical self. I studied everything, all the sciences, everything you can think of, but I really delved deeply into metaphysical, esoteric subjects because this is where I found truth and where I found more truth than I found in any sort of academic um, subject. And I started to learn about how we moved into this realm or field of consciousness. And then I took my first trip to Egypt, which was with Stephen Mailer, after
Mm.
great research and looking, because I didn't just want to go and with a mainstream group
Me
and
neither, man.
be told that this was what this wasn't, because I knew it wasn't. You
It's
have that inner knowing, and it
God.
just isn't that. Um, and so, yeah, and I found this tour. It was called the Star Elders Tour, and it featured Abdel Hakeim Alian. And I saw that Stephen had written 2 books with him, and I ran out and bought them both and read them cover to cover. And even as he was describing at the beginning in the forward of the book, meeting Abdel Hakim and the family and how he built the house, I could see the village. I could see the home. I could see everything as it was. And then Stephen would start showing the pictures, and it's like, yes, yes,
Can
yes,
you
yes.
tell the fans how he built the house, like intentionally, what the
Well, everything he did was completely intentional. And I know Stephen talks about how it's aligned with the Sphinx, which this is so important. And of course, we call the Sphinx Nut, the spit of Nut, Nut being the heavens. And where she exists is one of the most powerful lines of fertility or currency on the planet. And this is really huge. And Hakeem built his house with his own bedroom aligned right with the Sphinx, perfectly with the Sphinx. And you think, wow, and comes from an inner knowing, that this is where this is my life. This is what
he's
my
like,
life is all about.
when- as soon as he
Exactly.
wakes up, he's like,
And then I find myself, I come on these tours. At one point, Stephen is asking, our group, which was a very small group, which was fabulous. I fell in love with Stephen's passion. And of course, meeting Hakeem was divine. But I remember going to his house before he came and lectured to us. And the first thing he did was literally come out onto the balcony and give me a big hug and said, "Welcome home." And it just literally touched my heart in such a way because it came from his heart. And it was, and I still say that to my guests today, that welcome home, because
yeah.
when you think that Egypt had thousands and thousands of years of occupation, we all at one time had an expression in Egypt. I
Oh,
truly believe this.
well, I heard someone say that in our DNA is all the memories of everyone that's ever, all of our line that's ever lived, and that connects back. It has to. I mean, it's tens of thousands of years that culture ran. We all had to go through there in some incarnation, like.
Without a doubt. And it goes deeper than that because I believe and have come to believe through all the research that we exist in all of those expressions right now. It's not time. It's just, and Hakeem would say this all the time,
Yeah,
time is the illusion.
it
Time
is.
and space is an illusion. And
Yeah,
we are just right now zeroed in on a three-dimensional containment. And
like
we come here to learn self-mastery. So we do exist, but we have memory. Like you said, it's in our DNA, it's in our biology. And of course, we have, if we're willing to open up those senses that we forgot we have, we can touch base, we can start to interact with those other multidimensional expressions of ourselves.
we do a lot and don't even realize it. But like, I dream into the future.
Well,
So I know that there's that other side there, you know. I can pre-member things,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know. We can remember and pre-member. Like it's crazy. It's all in a. Hey Eric, can you please put up that? I think it's picture number 2 that's of Hakeem. Uh, I had a picture of you that was number 1. I love that one. Well, actually,
I,
go back to Patricia because is can you make it a little bigger? If not, it's fine. But I love that picture of you. I actually took that myself. I believe.
I,
I think Jeffrey Price took that one.
he took so many great pictures.
He took all my favorite ones. Him and Misty and a couple of them. I think I took that one. He'll nail me if I'll get dead wrong if I. But I love this picture of you. You're so in your element. Um, and that's it. I have nothing more to say about it. I just love that picture of you. But go one more to Hakeem, because when you see this guy's face, man, right away, like the
Yeah.
man's not an a-hole. Like,
No, no, no. Most amazing man, truly. I could just tell stories and stories about my time with him. But yeah, he can talk about anything and will, but if you really want the deep stuff, you would have to ask him. So it was just amazing. It was, yeah. He's
You're
so
the
thoughtful,
perfect
and the
person for
smile
that.
says it all. You would ask him a question, and he would say a few things, and then he would say something profound and just look at you. And then the smile that lit up his eyes, and you knew you needed to stop and really absorb what he just said because there was, you know, multiple dimensions of meaning within it. That yeah, just crazy.
It's funny, people like him have such uh, genuine and sincere humility that is really the size of their gift, which is almost inconceivable. But I've met other people like that, like Willie Nelson. Like he's just as humble as he is iconic, which seems impossible given how iconic, how huge that is.
You
But
can sense that in him as well. So yeah, yeah, great example.
so gentle, and it needs a person like you. I think, the one thing I'm so glad I inherited from my parents, and that I know Nigel has got from me, is incredible curiosity. I want to know why. I don't know, the how is great, and the how is really fascinating. But the how almost means nothing to me without the why. And so when that's the question, then you're on
Yep.
you're on
The
the
never
track. And
ending
that's why I
path
take
to joy, in
yeah.
my opinion.
But it would take somebody like you and me and Steven to get that out of Hakeem, because we'd always be like, hey, why this? That one dinner we had. Golly.
Oh, that was great.
So many decades of 34 years I've been studying stuff, decades of questions that you just were like, yeah, 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 yeah. What was one of the things, I know it's probably too many to recount, but just a thing that you can remember that you asked Hakeem, because you said you like had to ask him for him to tell you the deep stuff. What was one of the deep things that you were like, hey man, what about this?
Um, well, one thing I remember is our discussion about words and he was an expert etymologist. He understood, the thing about Egypt is, the ancient Egyptians, and many of the listeners, I'm sure, have heard about, and of course, as a musician, and as many musicians probably watching, this idea that every tone holds a depth of meaning. And, the language itself, we've heard the word, that it's liquid light from the heavens or the language of the birds. But when you think about all of the tones, each tone has an archetypal meaning. Each one of us has an archetypal color. That's what we embody. It's based on even the angles of light. The rays of the sun hitting the earth the moment you're born, even. There is a science behind everything esoteric. But with that tone, that angle of light, angel, we're all angels. These are the Neteru. These are the forces of nature, right? So every angle of light has a tone, a sound, and a color. Everybody's seen the where where every tone can make the tones make music makes beautiful pictures. Just like math can make beautiful pictures. Everything is connected in this way.
Yeah.
And so with these tones, we were talking about tones and words. And, I would mention, I asked him about, the origin of different words, and he could take it through, the country of origin, that place where the sun hits the earth at a certain angle. He didn't say that, but through all my studying, it's like, oh my gosh, this is what he's talking about. And so he would talk about how when it migrates to another place, right? Another time and place. It can go through time or it can go through distance. It can turn into something else. And so he would take a word, and the one he mentioned a word that meant yes. And he said, you walk across the border into this country and it means no. And then he would stop and give me that grin. And I begin to understand. And I'm going to include another question I didn't ask, but someone else was set evil. And
Yes, this was a big one for me.
he got that grin again, and he just said, it all depends which direction you're looking.
Yes.
And of course that stuck with me. And now that I understand about, right and left brain, the two hemispheres of the earth, if you're in the southern hemisphere, everything is opposite from what's in the northern hemisphere. Which way are you looking? Which way are we
Which
spinning?
way is up?
Which way is up? Which way is down? And which direction are we spinning? Because the two
Polarity.
hemispheres spin in opposite directions.
Yeah.
And so when I started to study this and the volumes and volumes of information, I can now totally understand how everything changes depending on how you're looking at it.
Yeah.
You can't just look at something at face value and say you know what it is until you've
Yeah.
seen it from every angle, from every
Yeah.
direction. Wow. And that's source. You have to go to the center of the vortex to understand who and what we are.
The wholeness. Yeah. Because the first time that I've really started to get an inkling about Set, because for fans that don't know, Set later on was the bad guy. So like Jesus contended with Satan, and Horus, the son of God Osiris, or Ra in another story, contends with Set. One name I heard in Gerald Massey, Ancient Egypt, Live the World, was Set-On, Set-On,
Later.
which became Satan.
Oh,
And what Massey said was that there was different ways of reckoning. He called it lunar, solar, lunisolar, and pole star. And he said when it was reckoned by the pole star, Set was the representation of that. And that's when Set was basically the Jesus. He was the good guy. And I was like, oh, it's just a different system. So then when it changed, now, Cain and Abel, like somebody.
you're exactly right. It's actually even this fallen angel story. It's the fallen angle of light into form. He
Into
is
gravity and form. Yes.
he is set into form. And what does that create? The chaos. Set
And
represents the
tension.
chaos
Yeah, the
of
duality.
wanting to get
Yeah.
out of the skin that now encases you. And that's what Set represents. He is, he's just us. We are set
Yeah,
literally
exactly. You
in
can't blame
form,
the guy. That's
in the
exactly.
womb or tomb of our bodies, our physical belief in a body, our belief in a
Yeah.
physical form. We're held hostage by that. And that's what Set represents. He
It's just the
is,
fear
he
that
is
that's all there is.
exactly. He's the light bringer into a physical
That's
realm.
so great. Patricia, this is why I want to have you on, because there's a whole, you know, I honestly think it takes women and people that are connected to their feminine side, like Hakeim, uh, to realize these things or to remember these things. Which brings me to another question I want to ask you. You know, Stephen was saying that Hakeem was chosen by the women of his tribe when he was young. And I wondered, have they chosen anyone to be his successor? Or are there others chosen that are out there that are.
Now, this is an interesting question. And I talked to Hakeem about this tradition of handing wisdom down or choosing a wisdom keeper. Um, Before I mention what he said, I will talk about the ancient times when the female was the wisdom keeper, and that was when we were in right brain consciousness.
Yeah.
And we haven't even talked about that, how, Hakeem and so many people, and how I started to see it in the symbolism and then understood what Hakeem had been saying. But this idea that we come from in right brain consciousness is our intuitive, our creative, it's our multidimensional consciousness
Yeah.
that basically, 6,000 years ago, give or take, we closed the door on and we fell into left brain consciousness, which is this urge and need to define and measure everything. This was the beginning of the calendar, everything,
Yeah.
because we could no longer feel connect our connection to everything that exists, all of the Neteru, and these we are the followers of Horus, but we've descended so far we even forgot that
Yeah.
we we forgot. that we were once these people with this amazing ability, this consciousness. And then we fall literally into this belief that we are our bodies. And that's representing that. Moving into left brain consciousness is separation from source. Many, and I call it separation consciousness. And we
Yeah.
leave ourselves vulnerable to agendas that try to create fear and then provide all the answers, and when you're in a state of fear, you will do anything to survive. And we then forget we have a connection. We don't need someone to channel God for us. We have
No,
a
it's
direct
right there.
connect.
And all the great teachers say it explicitly. Like Jesus said it explicitly. Like
Yes.
just, you can tap right in
Yeah.
yourself, you know.
He literally threw the temples away, and well, not the temples, the tables, the offering tables, and
Yeah.
this was not what we needed. We didn't need to pay
Yeah.
someone to tell us who we are.
Well,
We
Hakeem
had
said that was to make benefit, the whole death, because
it.
this is something that you get all these
So
misinterpretations like the Book of the Dead when the Egyptians didn't even have a word for death.
yes.
It's just like,
And that's all the same time period. That's what we're talking about, the
yeah,
fall of man. And the thing is, people say, why? Why does this happen? And they're the cycles. You
it
talked
has to.
about the
It's like,
cycles of Stephen.
why does
Yeah.
winter happen? Nobody asks
It,
why does winter happen.
it's to learn self mastery because we've never really lost our direct connect. We've lost our way. And as Hakeem kept telling us, we can open all of these senses that
Yes, we
we
did.
thought we had. We need to learn to have faith in our abilities to connect. And that's what people
Yeah.
have lost. We don't, we believe we're powerless when we are probably the most powerful things we can't even imagine how powerful we are.
We're still here. It's a miracle that we're, like individually and corporately. So it
Yeah.
makes me wonder. I guess they were the people that whoever chose Hakeem in this age. You had to choose a guy because you couldn't even choose a female wisdom keeper until the
In
next,
my
you
opinion,
know,
in my opinion, Hakeem stepped up, and any one of us today can be the wisdom
step
keeper.
up. Yeah.
I have heard from people, and I've talked to true elders. They're not the ones that are out saying I'm indigenous today, because we have descended so far that and I'm totally not in judgment with this, but we've descended so far that we've forgotten why we step up. We've forgotten how important clarity, authenticity, and honesty is.
Yeah.
We are not even honest with ourselves. So you can't have a lineage anymore of wisdom keepers. We need to step up
Yeah.
and become clear, become authentic.
Yeah.
I have someone that I'm very, that I believe so much in and I'm close to is Dr. Ibrahim Karim of biogeometry. And he talks about literally excellence of action, that in every moment, in
Yeah.
every choice, if we can choose, again, just authenticity, this is
Yes.
huge.
Yes.
This is huge. We're not authentic with ourselves.
But we're
Look,
not. We are gaslit and suppressed and
yes,
brainwashed. This is not like, it starts real early too. My
it
kids
does.
flush it all out. Well, why
We
not,
can.
Dad? And then I can't even tell them because they're not ready yet. But it's just like it's
So
that.
now I'll tell you what Hakeem said when I talked about lineage of wisdom keepers. And he said to me, literally, that the wisdom keeper in every child's life is his mother from the age that he's born until he's 7 years old. The mother tells him who he is, where he came from, and what his heritage is. Now,
Yeah.
when the mother is in a high state of consciousness, that is a beautiful lineage of knowledge. But what happens when the mother falls? The consciousness
Yeah.
of the mothers fall. And this is where we're at. And it happens over time. And so the child is filled, as you said, with core beliefs that that don't empower him or her.
Yes.
And so again, this is actually you really have to open your world and your eyes to realize this is actually the greatest gift given to us,
Yeah.
because we only chose this in order to find and feel our way back
Yeah.
to the light, to Horus, to Jesus, whatever you want to call it. It's to source. It's our center. We want to go home. We all have this deep, deep longing for something, and we don't know what that is. That's going back to our heart, our center, our holy grail, if you will.
Wholeness, like
Yes.
I love this image
Holiness,
of
beautiful.
yeah, it's right that wholeness is the holiness. I love this image of remembering the dismembered body of Osiris. That just struck me so hard. I can't remember where I first read that, whether it was Massey or who said it, but just like that as a metaphor for our consciousness that separated everything and cut Osiris up in all these different pieces, and then we had to find all the different pieces, and remember the dismembered. But I was like, that's we're trying to remember the dismembered wholeness of all of us. It's
And in the
but it's a long game.
mythology, oh, sorry. But I point out that in the mythology, it's Set who chops Osiris
Yeah,
into all of these pieces. And it'll be 42 pieces, which either, represents the districts or nomes of ancient Egypt. So that's the division of the land, right?
yes.
So Osiris is humanity in
Land
separation
itself.
consciousness,
Yeah,
but also it's the Tower of Babel story. When
yeah,
he got set, and
yeah.
set is sunset. Horus or Jesus is the horizon. And you'll often find them in one body with two heads. They're
Sunset,
two sides
sunrise.
of the
You did
same
it.
coin.
I never look at things the same way. I've tried to talk to you.
I
Sunset
knew you
and
would love
sunrise.
that. That's why I
That's
shared.
it, man. But it's all right there. This is what
Yeah.
Hakeem thought in this way, and you can trace. That's why words are so important.
Mhm.
We have to be. I stress this with my kids a lot, and they hold me accountable to be clear with our words, because semantics. I mean, we're killing each other in mass over semantics.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, people, we need to be more clear with our words.
Yeah.
It is important. People are dying in droves. Like, let's stop it. And it's so sad because you can see the link, you know? Like I remember thinking about it was something about Lazarus, the upright one, Asar, and or what was no, it was the link between Caesar, Kaiser, and Czar. I was
Wow.
like, oh yeah, I get it. Caesar in Rome,
Yeah.
Kaiser in Germany, Czar in Russia. Like there's a link there. It's like when they talk about Boo Wizard, and this is where we got the term wizard from Netters to nature, or alchem becoming alchemy and
Alchemy
chemistry.
and
And it's
mystery.
like, this stuff is real. It's not, once you see it, that's why I like Pokemon, because it does the same thing. Once I got onto that, I was able to like hook in with my son, because I was like, dude, this doesn't make
Perfect.
any sense. And then that kind of thing, I was like, oh, they're doing the same thing. It's a way to uh,
Mhm.
teach and remember and connect and synthesize, and it's
That was so
magic. That's why they call it spelling, right?
yeah, well, hello.
Oh
Yeah.
man. All right, let's go. I want to go. Can you go a couple pictures for? Okay, yeah, that's you. Go back. I'm sorry. Go back to where the three of us. There you go. Or the three of you guys. That's Patricia, Stephen, and Mena.
All
Mena,
right.
man, she is good as gold. She was our
Isn't she?
Egyptian.
I love her.
Man, I tell you what, she's very cool under no matter what situation. Okay, go ahead. One more, Eric. Okay, that's all of us, the big group.
Yeah.
First day, man,
Great day.
yeah. And as I look through these pictures, I realized because that trip took a lot out of me. I have a real fondness for pretty much everyone in that group. That was a
Yeah,
good group, you
true.
know? And go one forward, Eric. Okay, yeah. Now I
Yeah,
think Misty took that picture. I think her name is
gorgeous.
Misty Leslie. Yeah, that was okay. Now the next one, go forward one.
The hospital.
Yes, okay. This I really wanted to get into because when I found out that they had a sound healing hospital, I was like, what? You don't see that taught anywhere. Or do you? I don't think anyone teaches that, but
I
Hakeem,
know.
right? Okay. So
David
please,
and I do, and yes, Hakeem, and he had many students. So there are many that are aware. I've actually met people that have studied with Egyptian archaeologists and Egyptologists that have come to me and said that they've mentioned it,
nice.
which I loved. It
Yeah.
wasn't just Hakeem. I've also been inside a tomb of one of the high priests or priests that was responsible for the tone within the sound healing that was done on the site. So, of course, this was happening. And you saw the layout and how it's all designed, to embody this process of
Yeah.
the ability to bring the body, mind, and spirit back into balance.
There's these little niches in there, and I had a video of me. I thought I put the picture in here, but it looks like I didn't, like a bonehead. Um, but there's a little square, and you stick your head in it.
Mhm.
And I was curious and suspected that there was a resonant frequency, and sure enough, there was. And I found it, and everybody behind me was doing the same tone that I was, and some of
Uh-huh.
them weren't really on the pitch, but I could hear on the other side because it's just a square little niche, and then there's cement
Did
or
you
whatever
notice
that
the
goes.
niche had corbelled ceiling? The
I did,
sound? It had corbelled ceiling. Just that little niche had a corbelled ceiling.
really
And
cool.
then it had these, the side around that little labyrinth that you had to walk in to get back to it. In other
Yeah.
words, to entrain the brain before you put your head in the niche. It had little bars that came down that sound engineers have told me brings the sound around the,
Wow.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to
No,
point.
no, you tell the fans because this is like just so much science involved.
Well, they want to hear your experience, and then I can talk about
Yeah.
how that.
Well, Stephen had said that you would stick your head in the niche, and they go all around. There's a bunch of them that surround the thing, and I guess they would make the tones and then somehow diagnose what was wrong with you based on what the sounds did and your head being in there. So I think I was kind of doing the reverse. I think my suspicion is the tone was being made from the other side. Yes, that's me doing it right there. Um, and you could see how much, man, we had been trekking because look how dirty I guess I was
We
flying on
had a
my
big
back.
day that day. Yes. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
suspect
Those
the sound was
niches.
made on the other side, right? I'm not sure though.
You're inside the labyrinth, and you're in that tiny alcove, and then you see, yeah, the tiny niche where you put your head. That niche is connected via the structure and underground channels of running water to what were once 11 patients' tables. And there were niches on the other side as well.
Yeah.
For a total of what Hakeem said were 22. And I sort of relate that to the electromagnetic cycles of the sun, but that's another story. The
Yeah.
11 year, the
11,
sun
11.
flips its magnetics about every 11 years for a full cycle of 22. There's 22 major arcana in the tarot deck, which represent the hero's journey of mankind as Osiris. But anyway, we'll stop there because that's too much information.
Go, go, go. We'll circle back. We'll circle back.
But what's fascinating is these niches are connected to these patience tables that have two stairways leading up. And one you would choose which stairway you would want to walk up and find your space on the platform and sit, stand, or lay down. Now we can only assume some aspects of this,
Mm.
but I've utilized it over the years with my guests. And then the high priest or the Imhotep, he who comes in peace. And peace can mean he who comes in balance. And Imhotep, they say was the great architect of the
Yeah.
pyramid and the structures at Saqqara at the time of King Djoser or Djeser, which they say was third dynasty. Of course, we believe the pyramid is far more ancient and far more megalithic than people understand. It was built in stages, and we believe Imhotep actually came and, reuse or when you come later, you restore and he made it larger, and it's the only oblong pyramid.
Mm.
But this name that he earned is about being the great adept, the one who understands the structure, the currency, the structure of not only, the energetic structure of not only the building and architectural buildings, but also the energetic body. And so he knows how to restore the flow when there's blockages in structure or in body. And
Great
this is what
body.
he did. He restored the structures, the pyramid, and he knew how to bring the body, mind,
Yeah.
and spirit back into a state of balance.
Yes.
And in so, and in so doing, this is, and that was just one aspect of it. So yes, and what I found is many of the later priests, throughout time would have the title of Imhotep in their names. And I
Yeah.
believe it became a level of excellency or the ability
Yes.
to
More
hone
than a
into
name.
this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
This title is a label for something more.
Yeah.
And so this is what I believe. I say high priest, I say Imhotep healer. This person puts their head in the niche and can connect and see the energetic matrix of the physical body, mind, and spirit. And then he sees where the blockages excuse me, and then he can send the color, tone, frequency that will unblock
Unblock.
what's blocking you, and that restores health. But you're not done yet. And this is the most important aspect that they understood, because in the next courtyard, as you move, toward the north, you actually have another three chambers. Did we take you there?
I think you did.
I think we did. And when we have time, we do. And I'm pretty sure we did. And you had the ability to put your head in three different niches. And one would have been your connection to your divine feminine within. And the second would be your connection to your divine masculine within. And then the center niche would give you that ability to know what it feels like to be in complete balance. And I've worked
It
with
did
people
not
for
do that one.
17 years with this, and
Yeah.
it's amazing how they can come in contact with their deep wounds of experiences they had from their childhood or throughout their lives with, either masculine entities in their life or feminine entities,
Mhm.
and how maybe some, special nurturing or abuse can create different things within the body, diseases. And so what's happening is the other half of healing is realizing where you are emotionally out of balance so that you can work. It has to be an interactive process. It isn't somebody just sets a tone and you're healed. That's the beginning. Know what it feels like to be in perfect health, and then fix what's emotionally unbalanced within. And these were the tools that they used.
It's like spiritual blockages, emotional blockages. I was
Mhm.
always fascinated when I looked at the 42 negative confessions, which are
Um,
basically for my fans out there that analog to commandments, like 10 commandments, like 42 commandments, but they come in the form of, I have not done this, I have not done that, I've not murdered, I've not stolen, I've not. And one of the things it said was, I have not blocked a moving body of water, damned a moving body. And I was like, and it made me think of uh, Jimmy Herring, a guitar player that is an old friend of mine, and he's a real big fisherman. He would always complain about how the Army Corps of Engineers messed up the fishing by building these dams, you know. And I thought they knew a body, the water is supposed to move. They used it for so much to generate energy as part of the sound healing. That you said all of this is to unblock, to remove blockages. Just like when you were a kid in the wood, like getting all this stuff out of the water to unblock it, it was just like it was in you from the beginning. That sense, and
In all of us, we know
yes,
this in our
if
hearts.
you block your circulation in your body, you're gonna die.
You're blocking the flow, of course.
Or this part's gonna, I got to cut this part off, or what, like,
And at its greatest, they dam the River Nile, which is the breath. It is the great breath of
yeah,
life of
inhale and
Egypt.
exhale, the inundation.
And it brought all the paramagnetic minerals down from Ethiopia, which is what made the agriculture so abundant, that it could serve millions of people over tens of thousands of years. And then they
And
block
did,
it.
and
And
did.
now
Yeah.
Egypt uses more chemicals in their agriculture than any other country because they no longer have that rich dark earth coming down with the flooding of the Nile. So you can't do in Turkey. They dammed up a river and they literally destroyed some many ancient sites. Why?
It's the paradigm we're in. We're coming out of it. We're
Yes.
coming out of it. Maybe
Well, let's
destroying all dams
undam the
will be.
rivers.
Yeah. I
Unblock.
mean, no, we're already starting to undo some of this. Okay, Eric, can I go? Can I see that? Can go to the next picture? Because I chose certain ones because there's little things that I wanted to ask you. Um, but so let me, before we get to that, um, I want to talk a lot about the matriarchy. One of the things that I think is why it's so hard for Western society to understand, and why they've missed the mark so much, is they just can't conceive of looking at it from this other way. And a lot of times when they're talking about something Western that's a mystery, they're like here it's I'm like, it's no mystery. That's when the matriarchy was. So you said this shift happened around 6,000. I always think of, in my mind, I kind of follow the astrological, like the 2,000 year thing, and it seems to be like right around Taurus is when it all went to shit. Is that correct?
100%. Well
Okay.
done.
Gemini
Age of
were on the
Taurus.
fence. We're like, hey, we got both, but then it's like,
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, you look at it, and Leo, the symbol for Leo is that first breath, right? Into the spiral, which that's what all breath does. It's sort of sine wave spiral, it's a sine wave that spirals back to center. So that's the first breath. Cancer is the yin yang in containment. We
yeah,
feel our masculine and feminine within. We all have it, right?
yeah,
Hakeim would say that there's only,
yeah,
2% difference between me and you, right?
yeah,
And it can't be any other way, but we've forgotten that. So then in Gemini, we have the twins. In Egypt, it was Shu, air, and Tefnut, water, moisture, right?
yeah,
So that is the atmosphere that separates heaven, fire, and earth. There's your four elements.
yeah,
And the game board is what happens in the atmosphere, right? In
yeah,
the air and the water. So this is that beginning. And then Taurus is the big black ball in
yeah,
so many cultures. And that's Ptah, that's Osiris. This is when, and Ptah and Osiris are wrapped in their own wings. So this is the beginning of that we fall into form, the wings being the electromagnetic field that surrounds us and the earth. And that's what protects us.
The
But
flapping
it's
wings.
also what holds us hostage in a belief we are our bodies. So
Yeah.
when we're willing, and our magnetic field is weakening exponentially right now. In the last 160 years, it's weakened almost at 30, some say more, 30%. And right in the last 10 years, it's weakening faster than you can possibly believe.
Wow.
So we've lost about 1/3 of our veil, the veil of forgetfulness. And that's why so many of us are awakening and we're feeling our spidey senses heightening. We're feeling that connection and we're not sure whether to trust them or doubt them, but our intuition is right on. We're thinking something and it's happening. And, a lot of people want to suppress that because they've been taught that that's wrong, and we had this when we were kids. Mommy, yeah, I was answering everybody's questions. Well, they would tell a story and they were telling it so slow, I'd finish their sentences. And I'd be told, now that's rude. You can't do that. But but I was lucky to grow up in a family that allowed me to explore that part of myself. But it's heightening. It's getting
Yeah.
so strong. And I think we need to allow our children to explore this side of themselves. This is why the children are so special today. They're
Yeah.
coming in knowing, and they're knowing
Coming
from the
in, it's
heart.
already thinned. The veil's
Yes.
already thinned when they got here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the remnants. This is the beginning. Like you said at the beginning, this is the back. We fell, we descended, and now we're beginning to rise again, right? We don't go straight to the top. Oh, suddenly this is the great awakening
Yeah.
and we become one with all that is.
Yeah.
No, this is when we have to work our way back to the light. And we're going to start earning our wings, and it's going to be a process. And this is where we're at now. It's that stage of, okay, now I know my gut is telling me I can't do that anymore. And
Yeah.
do we follow our gut? And
But
I
some
say
people,
yes, yes, yes. We need
but
to be
they
so
think they're
sure.
going crazy, though. I feel so bad for the people that really did buy into the paradigm and never just constantly ignored, because we all get these signs all the time. And so there, you have to either be suppressed, scared to say it. A lot of people are scared to say, yeah, I see a dead person behind you, or I see something behind you, or I see a color around you. They're like, God forbid I tell
Mhm.
the friggin' truth of what, because then I'm crazy. And then for some people that have not experienced that and are starting to experience it, well, they think they're for sure going crazy.
But pretty much
You know?
everybody has experienced it. And I have learned
Some
this through the
part, yeah.
years.
In
I do so
dreams,
many
it's not.
lectures. You can ask your audience now, how many of you have had an experience like this? How many of you have had an experience of leaving your body and
Yeah,
been terrified? And
yeah,
that that fear is what can create what we would perceive as a scary experience. Eliminate the fear, and it can be the most beautiful experience in the world. And this is what the ancients taught. This is what, the Horus holding the two serpents, that's what it is. It's transmuting polarity, it's
yeah,
transmuting your fears and remembering who you are, which is you are more powerful. You are light. Hakeem said it. The light surrounds you, the light
melting.
goes through you. You are the light. Just remember who you are.
Yeah,
Um,
it's scary, but I have since I was a child had the experience where I'm laying down and then I feel like I'm gonna fall through the bed. And then I jerk because I'm scared. And I'm like, dude, you were just about to leave your body again. Quit being so scared. So then I went into like float tanks, and now I'm doing all kinds of hemi stake, binaural beats. And I
but
get there, like I
let
get that feeling
go.
where I'm about to go, and I just haven't gone yet. But now I'm like ready to dive off the cliff.
Trust me, let go. This started happening to me when I was in my teens. I was in college and suddenly I was, we get no sleep in college, the studying and partying is, it's just way too much.
Yeah.
But I needed to be the best student and have fun. And so I had little sleep and I would find when I napped during the day, suddenly I was having these experiences. I was worried. I thought I needed a cycle. The fear comes in first, but I was lucky to meet the people who could tell me what was happening. And when I explored that and lost the fear, I realized how empowering the experiences I had were,
Yeah.
to be invited into interdimensional schools, it was incredible what I experienced. And I still do it today, not as much. I learned how to actually do it at will because again, no fear. And I'm
Yeah.
sharing this to give you the ability. It's not, you don't even need anything,
Just
but
to let
in
go.
those moments between wake and sleep, just say, I'm ready, go,
Yeah.
or even within the dream, you can start to do it.
Well, that's I got a book by Preston Dennett, and he went. I think he even went to the Monroe Institute and all this stuff. But he would
Yeah.
naturally do it. But then he wanted to be able to do it at will, and so he documents his journey. Just April 26th, 19 whatever, and he shows all the different things. And so I've seen the stages, like when you feel like you're vibrating, and I'm there, and I know. Honestly remember how to do it. I have done it in my dreams because he said if you fly in your dreams, then
Yeah,
you are doing it.
exactly.
And
I
I
was
was like,
flying in my
oh, I
dreams as
have.
a child.
And
Yeah.
like you say, it's a lot when the nap or like right before you're awake in the morning, you're not all the way asleep. That Stephen
We're
Mailer
doing it,
calls it
OTL. We're
willpower.
just afraid to remember.
Exactly. And that's what we all are.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
because I know, I think maybe we feel like the responsibility of having that much power is just terrifying. But we
It's
also got
not
to remember
power.
the relief. Like, hey, man, we don't have to do all this crap. Like even Jesus taught that. He was like, the birds don't worry about where their next meal is coming from. We don't have to like do, like hunter gatherer people, they go out and hunt and then they chill.
There's
I
nothing to
have to
fear
do,
but fear itself. Powerful words. What's the worst that can happen? Well, there is nothing worse because what you're experiencing, it's very similar to plant medicine.
it
Out of
is,
body is incredibly, I mean, the people that understand me, and so many people do not understand me at all, and that's okay. Are the people that had near death experiences,
yeah,
astral experiences, or that have done
terrible.
plant medicine
Yeah,
because they have been to the otherworldly, other dimensional places,
yeah.
and they know. When you've been there, and this was the greatest thing it gave me. Beyond any shadow of a doubt that we exist in all these levels. We have an existence. Every choice we make creates another multidimensional
Yeah.
self. We're experiencing so much. And we in physical bodies don't have the tools to know all of those things. Some of the autists that are born today, these beautiful young
There you go.
children, they can. The non-speakers especially can literally be in those interdimensional spaces. And when someone asks them about astrology, I heard this in an interview with a dear friend of mine, Veda Austin, that I describe it when she described what this young autist had said, and he was describing astrology as he was part of the dance of the moving planets and stars. It wasn't like we do, looking and measuring and describing and
like we're
labeling.
not like we're not moving. It's just all going.
Right, it's going around me. Um, but he was in the process. He was feeling what all of the planets were doing and how that interacted with every one of us. And I thought, this is true unity consciousness. This is right brain and left brain coming into balance in that beautiful place where you're harnessing the profound perception of both.
Yeah.
The ability to experience and the ability to define. Some of them just are in right brain consciousness, which is like paradise. That's how Dr. Ibrahim Karim describes it. It's paradise.
And
And he brings up that old song about I'd be a stranger in paradise. You're probably too young to remember it, but that idea of, if we could enter paradise, right brain consciousness, we would feel totally out of place. We wouldn't understand. But wow, we are opening the door now. It's starting to happen.
thank God. I mean, because the act it's thank God the sun comes up again. You know, I just don't know how much more we could take. You know.
I agree. I agree. And it is. And it's an exciting moment to be here. There's chaos surrounding us. This is the fun part. What does Horus do? And I'm sure I showed you this at Dendera and possibly Abydos, but Horus is the one that kills the beast, right?
Yeah,
Remember?
I see him striking. I think I have a picture.
And he's killing the aspect of Set that is the beast, which is chaos. We need that moment of silence to remember who we are. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Okay, that was the. Do we have Dendera in there somewhere? Actually, can you just flip through it? I mean, can you put them on the screen? Oh man, that was the Osirian, wasn't it?
uh, this is the Osirian.
Okay, can you go
Oh,
back?
here, that's beautiful. That's right. Go back to where you just were.
Upside down and back. That's where we are now.
Yes, yes, upside down and backwards, which is how our limited senses view the world. Our eyes are seeing the world upside down and backwards. And they actually say, beware of traveling the world upside down and backwards. And they have their hands tied behind their back because they're held hostage in a belief and just their five senses. And these are faulty. We think we're seeing the color blue, and it's actually light reflected off yellow. If we think we're seeing the color red, it's light reflected off green. I was a color specialist once and I learned all this. And finally, it dawns on me when you start to study these ancient cultures and they tell us these things, we are perceiving everything upside down and backwards.
Yeah,
And now
what
we're
does that
about to.
mean about all the religious figures that were depicted as blue? These
Yeah,
blue, what you said that it's light reflected off yellow? Is that what it was?
that's correct. That's the way our eyes, actually, physical eyes, experience the world. When we think we're seeing blue, it's actually light. The only way we see light is the lens of our eyes sees it as light reflected light, right? We are the shadow of what's real in the space in between. That's what form actually is, right? And the space in between is heaven, right? So
Yeah.
this is that whole flipping of perception, and this is they show us these images. I think there's this place where they have this great big net, and it's the space time continuum, and we are held hostage in the net, knife, the womb, or the tomb that holds us hostage in a belief that we are our bodies.
Okay, now let
That's
people know Ninth is an Egyptian netter. See, let's explain netters too, because they mistranslated these things as
yeah. Right.
Book of the Dead. They don't even have a word for death. They call it going west, like the sun goes
Right.
west. And then the gods and goddesses are actually netters, which I uh, take to mean forces of nature.
Correct. Absolutely.
So, as expressions, we are ourselves expressions of nature, the
We
forces
are
of
forces of
nature.
nature.
So, we cannot be separate from the forces of nature because we are expressions of the forces of nature. So now, if you plug the word God and goddess back in, that's what people say, oh, I am God. It's like they're not saying, no, I created everything, although we're co creating, but it's not the way the patriarchy looks at gods and goddesses and this hierarchy, like they're up here and we're down here. We're all part of and can access all the netters. Is that a correct explanation?
100% correct. Yes.
And that's how we remember, because it's all there. Go hug a tree and remember. Go.
Exactly. The tree will talk back to you if you have ears to listen.
But this is the plant medicine thing. And I think, like I believe some people have a lot of these chemicals running through, like my mentor, Colonel Bruce Hampton. The strongest hallucinogen is endogenous, is DMT, which is apparently they say is found in like at least 6 parts of our brain now. I think Bruce had tons of it running through because he just was so psychic. He never did drugs. Um, but he came up in the 60s when everyone else was doing psychedelics, which just ripped, the veil. It was like, oh, I see. There's no doubt anymore because you're experiencing so much more than what you were just living in your regular 5 senses. So I think, but we can connect to all these things without it. But I think it's great for our time. And it probably was being used back then too. Like, I don't know what plant medicines the Egyptians were into. I got to think they were doing something.
Without a doubt. All of the ancient cultures in right brain consciousness knew and communicated with the plants and the animals. And that was the time the plants told us how they can heal us. We've never needed synthetic chemicals to heal ourselves. Everything is on the planet that can heal us, including our own. We can talk to the waters within. The waters are conscious.
Yeah.
The waters within us will heal us if you open a conversation.
And kill us if we don't. You know what I mean? If we just pollute them. Yeah. It's so deep. It's so important to remember that everything is alive. And I felt this, man, that first day, putting my hands on that stone. I was like, this thing is alive. It's like putting your hands on a giant sleeping dragon. There's no threat. It's hibernating, let's say. But you put your hands on, you're like, hey, man, this thing's breathing. It's vibing. Something's happening. So even something that.
I was just going to say, consider that rock that you touched was so excited that you recognized
I didn't think of that. I didn't even think of that, even after all this.
I used to hike in the mountains behind my house in Albuquerque, and I was, would walk by these 3 rocks all piled together out in the desert every day. Well, probably 3 to 4 days a week. And one time I heard a voice saying, why don't you ever stop and talk to us? I've had trees talk to me, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore.
No, what?
These rocks actually said, why are in? And I went back and I had a conversation with them. And it was wild because then every day I felt like I had to give them notice. And they were, again, so thrilled to see somebody or feel the recognition, that even though their breath, their vibration is slower than ours, they are sentient. And there is no time and space. So that's just one level of existence. And would you believe that animals and plants are more right brain? If they're not domestic, they're almost totally right brain. So they live in the multiple, in multiple dimensions.
I realized this when my wife and I honeymooned in Thailand, and we went to Chiang Mai, and our guide, Ruchi, she told us that when the tsunami happened, all the animals, every single one of them, all went in the same direction and split, except humans and their pets. So we even caused our animals, which was just, I think they felt it, but they were just loyal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they were like, I can't get them to go, so I'm going to have to die with you. But so
I just try.
I met it. Oh, yeah. I mean, my dog will let me know when I go to the bathroom. If you can get in sync with your animals, they are telepathic. So I just always thought to myself, well, if I see all the animals and insects and birds and everything going one way, I'd be like, y'all should follow me because I'm gone. Follow me right now. I'll be like Paul Revere. Oh
But
my
that's what nature does. The mycelium in the forest does this. When there is an ailing a tree, the mycelium send out a message to everything in the forest to send nurturing and support to whatever is failing in the forest. That.
And it's talked about that a lot. Yeah, I love him and his whole thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I learned so, and that's how we all, I mean, that's how we learn everything is from nature. Scientists shouldn't be this way.
Yeah.
They're learning from nature too. We're all learning from nature. Stop it. But it's okay. Like you said,
It's
this is
beautiful.
the time, it's winter time. We have to fall into this. You just can't see it. And it's one of the things that I love about, like, Eric, can you go forward one picture? What I love about the Egyptians is that, and you could tell me if this sounds right or wrong to you. I get this feeling like we all did this a long time ago, knowing that we were going to forget,
Yeah.
and knowing that people would try to suppress and hide because all that's been done. They don't want they don't want everybody to know. you know and we did it so that it could not be erased. You can't gaslight it away, you can't suppress it. We'll just keep finding more and more underwater, underground, just no matter what. The highest art, the highest science, the highest engineering, both sides fully, so that to help us remember, and all these symbols, like all of it all at once.
Yeah.
I feel guilty that I didn't stick closer to you and Steven's side more during the tour, but sometimes I needed to be away from people, like to get this shot and just feel it, just see, like I know my brain is going to capture all of it like a camera, and just
You
feel it and let it do its work on me because I studied so much before. It's like, now just go feel it.
You're absolutely right. There are no wrong ways to experience Egypt. And on your first journey, I think what you came to know is that these sites, first of all, were chosen for the place, per
Yeah.
netter het. Each place has an archetypal netter, right? Force of nature that it embodies. And they're all built on streams of water that cross underneath, subterranean, and that creates this vortex of surging energy that is the life force, which creates a living structure. So you're entering a place that is alive and interacting with you. And there are areas like this that are not beneficial. But when they build an ancient site, and Dr. Ibrahim Karim talks about this, when they build a sacred site structure to embody all of this knowledge and wisdom that I believe the same way you do, it was built in order in to be ready for us, who they knew was them, when we come back to a time, when our consciousness is ready to literally come out of the darkness and back into the light. And we're being born back into the light again as we move through these structures. And the way the temple, and I mentioned this to you on the tour, is as we're walking through, you start out in the outer courtyards, but as you walk through, the ceiling is the heavens. You can see stars on the ceiling, right? And the
Yeah.
floor is the earth. And then the atmosphere keeps getting smaller and smaller, the space between heaven and earth. As you're walking in the temple, ceilings come down, the floors rise until you get to the Holy of Holies, the sacred place
True, because
where
those
heaven
are
and
like,
earth
yeah,
meet, that source, right? And as you go and explore that on your own, whether you're aware or not, it's interacting with their choice of
yeah,
stone, their choice of location is taking you on a journey that is opening something up within you. You're
yes,
having a remembrance, remembering yourself, right? Like Osiris, bringing in all those dislocated parts, and you're coming back to your space. So to do that alone is perfect. Um, there is a time for learning. There's a time, it's all part of the experience of awakening. So you have to follow your gut and follow your heart. And in those moments, I watched. You used to run off, and I could see, and you needed to do that. You
Things would
need
just call me this way, like, and but it's funny because I felt like, and I can't be sure, but I felt like I always got back to you when it was like the really important, when you had like the most important thing that you wanted to say. Like I think maybe Temple of Hathor was one of those. We'll go for it in the pictures and stuff. But yeah, and then I knew that I would be able to do this
yeah,
also,
yeah,
which is go back and revisit it because. But it's funny now, even when I go back to the Stephen's books or any books about Egypt, and I look at the pictures, and I'm like, I have a sense memory, like a smell, everything of that. It's like, it's more precious than gold.
yeah, and that's what you needed more than anything. I remember my first trip was a deep connection. I mean, looking at the Sphinx and my whole body saying, "That's not how could you have done this to her?" That's not,
Yeah.
it just and having that moment and then letting that go and embracing what was in front of me. Um,
Yeah.
and at each one of the temples, the same thing, allowing myself to say, you could, and at the time we didn't have an aware guide, and you'd hear them describe something that every sense in my being was like, well, that's ridiculous. That's not how it was because I'm seeing something totally different. And then, visions coming and all these things awakening within me, and yeah, I wanted more. And I just kept going back. And of course, now I live there. Um,
Yeah.
I have lived there for 17 years.
Wow.
But yeah, no, but that's who I am. That's not for everyone. And it's not everyone's journey. We are all
Yeah.
called on different journeys. And we need to follow what our inner, what our heart's telling us.
Well,
Oh,
my whole thing led me to you guys, and I'm glad. I thought, man, I certainly had the money to go to Egypt for a really long time. I'm very much a late bloomer with lots of things, but this was the
no, no,
right
no, no,
time.
no. Don't
This was
look at
the
it.
perfect.
Don't. I sorry to interrupt you, but it's not that. What you had to what we do. I mean, I told you I didn't go to Egypt knowing I was going to eventually end up there, but it's when opportunity meets preparation, and
Yes.
everything you've done in your life. All, we've talked about musicians
Yeah.
and how the music awakens all of that, all these different aspects within you, that right brain consciousness. We have more musicians coming on our tours
Yeah.
than almost anything else because that awakening has already happened. For me, it was color and artistry and creation. And people don't even need that. We can be creative in any,
Yeah.
in any modality. But it's that, that asking those questions. You have been asking those questions all your life,
I
and the
indeed.
universe has responded with what you needed. So don't say you're a late bloomer. You have prepared and prepared. And even if, your first trip to Egypt is 75 or anywhere, it can be a
Yeah.
temple in Russia, it can be Japan.
True.
This energy exists. It didn't just it exists in your home if you find
Yeah.
the right spot and find the silence. Um, to take advantage of it. What
Yeah.
we need to do is kill the chaos. And coming to Egypt, you're letting go your 3D world and entering a space that is entirely different.
Well, you have to, one of the greatest teachings I think that Hakeem has is that there is no separation. And so we all, who I heard somebody say yesterday, they went to the doctor and they were in their 50s, and the doctor said, in the 1800s, you'd have been dead already by 36 to early 40s. And his point in that was if you reach your 50s and 60s, you are shedding old identities. Whatever you can't help what you came in here black or Jewish or whatever place, language, religion. But by the time you get to like 50 something, you have realized, hey, I'm beyond just that,
Yeah.
and so this whole losing of our ego thing that all the religions teach us we have to do to die to our
Mhm.
ego and stuff. That kind of happens naturally. That's why I take your point about not being a late bloomer. It's like this is the time you're going on. You're like, yeah, I hadn't even started playing with the Grateful Dead guy, so I hadn't gotten this tattoo yet,
There you go.
which is the dead symbol with the ankh, which I got when my brother died.
Oh,
And so it took that, and then seeing this YouTube a couple of years ago where Mailer was talking about that Jerry Garcia met Hakeim. I was like, what?
yeah.
Okay, that's it. And that was like my sign from the
Yeah.
Neteru is like, it's now, Tito, and that's like,
Yep. Yep.
like,
And that's how it happens. That is what you created because I believe we come into beingness with a plan and we create the map. And if we choose to listen to our map that we created, we will end up in the places that we needed to
so
be
we
in order
shouldn't
to open our
worry.
eyes.
We shouldn't worry.
No,
We shouldn't worry.
no,
Worry
we
is just
should listen
negative
to,
meditation.
yes. Don't let your left brain talk you out of the magic. That's what I like to say.
Yeah. Amen. I mean, that's been my life's, like, I always felt that. And then
Mhm.
at 17 years old, right during the last quarter of high school, in which we were basically done, was the first time I ever tried hallucinogenics.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to like have crazy stuff. We would talk about stuff, and like basically that's when that I wasn't raised religious. That was my first kind of like well, I don't want to say my first religious experience because I've had so many paranormal experiences, but that was the first one where we all talked about it and hashed it out. Like, what is this that's happening? And that was like when I first committed to like, don't let them talk you out of the magic. You see, I mean, we just said the whole problem is a lack of love. We just need to love one, like, and we're just afraid for whatever reason, myriad
Fill
reasons.
our hearts. Yeah.
Yeah, but I realized it was a hard thing. It was a spiritual thing, even though I wasn't raised religious. I connected it in that side. It's just on that right brain side. It's in that category, not this one, which
Beautiful.
seems to be causing more trouble than.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for the AC, and the microwave, but
Yeah.
if we could quit the other shit.
Hey, my left brain got me far in life. It
Yes,
really
mine too, with music and yeah.
exactly, exactly. I find now that I've spent so much time in the temples and in these areas and in my studies that I don't want to know. I used to study advanced math and all, and love it. I don't, I can't anymore. It's like my head hurts when someone starts going into the intricacies of sacred geometry and that,
Yeah.
because I think we move from that space into just knowing. Once you see the patterns, and this is in music as well as in art or anything else, once you see and feel those patterns, those currents moving in everything and within, you just know them. Know the patterns, know yourself.
I mean, I do time travel regularly. Like when other people have deja vu, I think they just don't remember their dreams. I remember my dreams. But if I'm time traveling, I don't need to prove the equation of time travel.
No,
I'm doing it. I don't
exactly.
even know how I'm doing it, which is
Yeah.
a lot of how what happens in music. I'm sure I'm not I believe maybe there are equations that can represent it. But I'm not gonna go, well, I'm not gonna do the time traveling until they figure out the equation.
Well, that's left
Screw
brain.
that, I'm going, man. Like, I'm gonna play all the we've it's in we're wired for it.
We
So
are
just
wired
do
for
it.
it.
Like
You're
a fish doesn't need the equation for how it breathes
no.
underwater, it swims. Like,
In fact, when I think of math as the language that defines, again, left
yeah,
brain, like you were saying,
which is
we don't need to know it anymore. We did. when we first fell into left brain consciousness, of course, we needed to define and measure and create
How we
calendars. We
survived.
needed to know when to plant. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Survival. But now we're coming out of that. And I feel strongly that it's a time to let go of this definition, even our astrologers, to start feeling like this autist, feeling what's happening and
Yes.
not letting somebody tell you so that you think we've begun to accept that this will happen because my astrology says so, or so and so said so, or this is the way it's always been. And that's literally becoming powerless. And
Yes.
so
Yes. It removes our agency.
exactly. And how do we open the door to all of our power and step into that power if we don't let go of the plan and start trusting the heart? And I think this is the time, and I'm not saying we didn't need it before and just how important all of that was, hugely profound and important. But now is, I think, a time to go back into another form of beingness. And I think that's part of the anxiety and the chaos today
Yes, it
because
is.
with this knowing coming in, we feel anxious. Can I trust myself? Something's pounding on my head. It's ready to flatten me on the floor if I don't listen. But can I trust what it's telling me? And I think if we just take that step and say, yeah, I'm going to give my heart, my gut a chance, we will begin to live the life that's complete magic.
Yes, we're in a culture that is so convinced of death being the end.
True, true.
What's
And what is
terrifying
death?
is
Is
when
the
the
great,
paradigm.
it's the resurrection, right? That's what all the world religions and mythologies speak about. This is the great sunrise, right? And in, and,
But
and in Egypt, it's the litany of Ra when Ra and Osiris become one, and then the sun rises.
yeah,
Wow, that's what we're afraid of.
and it's crazy because all these religions say that they believe that the spirit continues after death, but then you really don't believe it because you're acting totally out of the fear of that thing. I'm like you when I think about this paradigm dying, I don't have a sense of panic. I'm like, can we go now?
Bring
Like,
it on.
to the next thing? Like, because I'm not worried that the world's gonna end.
Yeah.
That's what all the eschaton and the apocalypse, the end of there is no end.
Yeah.
People like
There cannot be an end. This is the thing. It cannot. Your essence does not end. It just is. This is the great isness. And it is told worldwide.
yes.
And yet these concepts, these judgment scenes, this was all developed by the Hanut, the
Yeah.
Hanuti, as Hakeim called it.
And we would call him the priest to make benefits as I came
To make benefit the first harvest, less jobs, right? Bring me money and I pray for you. Well,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Yes.
And then he went into great detail about that. And there, I even found a figure in one of the tombs at Tunis that says, this is the Hanut, the undertakers, right? Undertakers, because they developed the concept of death and judgment. And, and if you bring Horus offerings, right? And this is when you see Horus in the judgment scenes tipping the scales, bring him offerings, and Horus will balance your scales when they are weighing of the heart and the feather. And that whole heart and the feather thing, if your heart weighs more than a feather, then that big monster over there is going to eat you and you will not have eternal life. Well, what are the odds of your heart weighing less than a
Yeah.
feather? But it's not. They haven't told you the truth. The heart is right brain consciousness. The feather is left brain consciousness, right? Which one weighs heavier? Your heart, if your heart is heavy, it is filled with guilt, the most useless emotion on earth,
Yeah.
right?
When you have forgiveness, it is, right?
Exactly. And what are we balancing? Our
Yeah.
left and right brain consciousness. That's what it comes to. And that's why Thoth is always right there. Ma'anat,
Yeah.
harmonic resonance. We just need to transmute the polarity. And Stephen even told a story. I've heard it told many different places about, the white wolf and the dark wolf.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's either an ancient Native American
Native
grandfather or
American, I think.
grandmother,
Yeah.
talking to the child, and the child says, "Well, which one do you feed?" And it's literally, well, which one, it's not which one do you feed, who wins, the good or the evil. And the elder says, which one do you feed? It really comes down to what we do. And it comes back to living in clarity, authenticity, and honesty. Oh,
I'm just writing this down so I don't forget. It makes me realize that I can forgive Western society for missing it, and that the Greeks even missed it because the patriarchy had already screwed it up in Egypt by the time it got to be taught to Greece.
Actually, the Greeks and the Romans are part of that, especially the Romans.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
latched on to that in a huge way, and they spread it worldwide. And then the English helped, and Portuguese and Spanish. But they went into all the indigenous countries and made it illegal to practice the ancient ways.
yeah.
And that is the healing and the nurturing, the matriarchal. And yes, but again, it was the way it was supposed to be.
It was the time for it to happen, and yeah, we had thousands of years of it, and fortunately, we're coming out of it, man. We are.
They tell you, even Shakespeare wrote about this. We have to hit rock bottom in order to understand, that there is one. If we were born and lived beautiful, wonderful lives, what are we learning? It sounds
Yeah,
great. And I think that is, we came here to learn self mastery.
we
But
did.
when we leave, I think we get to relish in that, those, I've heard it's called 1,000 years of peace and this kind of thing. But I do believe that is, we have those moments in paradise. I remember, this is one thing I remember, my first trip to Egypt, and Hakeim was speaking to us, lecturing to us. And he talked about there's nothing new under the sun, which so many elders worldwide say. Anything we can conceive of or imagine has already existed. And then he would talk about, this concept. And I raised my hand, and, I was sort of like, but he said everything, everything that ever has been, whatever, you've experienced it all before. And I said, well, that doesn't give us much hope. I said, is there no room for improvement? And he got that silly little grin, and his eyes lit up, and he goes, oh, but it spirals. So yes, we do experience things over and over again, but we are moving up.
Yes,
That's the cycles. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll buy that.
Well, I find it interesting that in these two, like with the yugas in India, and then with these stages of Ra, I think, is there 5 of them or is it 7? I think there's 5.
Five.
And
Yeah. Well, it's five was in India, it was four. You have the four yugas that you experience rising and falling. And I remember someone asked Hakeim about the difference, and he said it's the same. And
what do you
the way
see?
I see
Yeah.
it, Un, Un as one of the five stages is the moment of silence. It's where we get our word noon, right? And we perceive the sun as still, as not moving in the sky at noon, right? And midnight, and also in the solstices, the silent sun during our annual cycle. And we also have those moments of silence in our great year. And I believe that that's the one that they don't speak about in the yugas, or mistranslated, because I believe there have been some mistranslations of the yuga cycles, because I do think they emulate the Egyptian cycles, but that's the only difference. So it's a moment of silence is not a moment of movement. So whether you
Yeah.
give it a label or not, it's we're still talking about the rising and falling of consciousness.
It's interesting to me that in both of those systems, the darkest one is short.
What?
Like the Kali
And we
Yuga is
think
the
it's so
shortest one.
long.
Well, but then On is like, and I'm like, Well, maybe that's where that phrase "it's the darkest before the dawn" comes from, because
It's
it
the
doesn't
moment
really
that
kind of make
raw and
sense. Yeah.
yeah, it's the moment we become at one with all that is. We have that
Yeah.
moment of this is the near death experience. That moment of total bliss when you feel that you are every cell in the universe, everything that exists. And then you're offered that choice if you want to go back and breathe again. And I've had so many people talk to me about that, and they come back and their whole lives are different. They come back with this inner knowing of this moment that everything really is connected, unity consciousness. I've talked to a man who's been on several tours with me. He's fantastic. He's written a book about it. He's the one that runs up and down every mountain. I mean, we'll offer the choice of, maybe two people go and he's he's running at the front. He is living life to his fullest. The other one was a young, beautiful young woman in Scotland, and she came and told our group her story. And today, she only lives in the now moment. She doesn't make
Yeah.
plans. She
Yeah.
doesn't talk about the past or affected by past wounds. She lives in the moment. She is
Yeah.
appreciating every moment, and she's just glowing. And this gives
As
us
you
all.
get older, hopefully you do that. I know I'm doing that more the older I get. I'm like, I have this thing where I'm like, I'm 61, I have 19 years till I'm 80.
Oh, you're
And
young.
not go stand, which went like that. But what it's making me do is live more in the moment. It's like, you know, even if it's something trivial like get the ice cream, like screw it, get the ice cream, but whatever, like really savor
Yes, yes,
the
treat
now.
ourselves. Yes,
Yeah.
appreciate, honor, respect,
Yeah.
live authentically, and treat yourself.
Yeah,
We
we
all
came a
deserve
long way to get here. We went through a lot to get
this.
here to
We
this.
work hard.
Yeah.
And there is no, I don't believe in sacrifice. I
Yeah.
believe in honesty.
Yes.
And honesty and integrity, walking in integrity will always keep you in the right path. And yes, that will mean sacrifice, but you'll choose your sacrifices wisely. In
Everything
other
is a
words,
sacrifice, right? There's a tab for no matter which way you
yes.
go. So,
I saw an interview with this fabulous woman, Carolyn Miss, and she was speaking about our need, our absolute need, not only to be honest, but to learn discernment. In the world we live in today with AI and this fake news, and we can't trust anything we hear. We can't even trust ourselves, right? All of this is happening, and she speaks about a lot of the things you and I have talked about, but she also says it is our responsibility to discern and not promote the lie.
yes.
And
Yeah.
and this is huge. That's a responsibility, to see you see these sensational things. And even in my field, I'm seeing so much nonsense written about Egypt and what's going on and what
Oh,
they're
yeah.
discovering. And I think to myself, oh my gosh, how can they say this? Well, it's fame and fortune and this and that. But it's the
To
people
make
that buy
benefit.
into it
Y
that
yeah.
really it's because we are so longing for something that we want to latch on to these beautiful, crazy stories. But when she said that, it just brought it all home for me that it is our responsibility not to promote the lie, that we need
Absolutely.
to discern, we need to know, and we need to walk in truth.
When I came back from Egypt, people like said, what do you think is the biggest change about you?" I'm like, "I'm pissed off. I am done with gaslighting. I refuse to promote the lie like you're saying. I'm done. Like you can't see all that and just stop it with this nonsense. Stop it.
Stop
Or
it.
I'm out. I'm opt out. Do not
Yeah.
allow opt out. Just
Yep.
click that button. And so there'll be that one less, you know,
Yeah.
multiplication of the lies and gaslighting and suppression and just nonsense.
And it makes a difference.
It does. It does make a
It
difference.
makes a huge, that's that ripple effect. And that is our responsibility to ourselves.
Yes. That image that you have of the wings flapping and being the
Yeah.
magnetic field, that is so heavy, the because it makes me realize that our intention, like you say, this discernment, what we're putting out, it has ripple effects exactly the same way. Like we're light beings, we are affecting
The
our
whole.
speech and even just our thoughts, our dreams, what we picture in our heads. So I'm
We're
with you on
also
that.
affecting every one of our multidimensional selves. Think about that, that we
Yeah,
belong, to this great body of other selves. And every
yeah.
decision we make is affecting the whole.
Helping all them too.
Wow. You know?
That's
I mean, Edgar Casey said it once, you only get to heaven on the hand of someone you've helped. Well, that even brings it
yeah,
home.
yeah,
I mean, and everybody in my environment and you are my mirror. You're part of me.
yes,
Speaking to me, I'm having a conversation with me because everything is your mirror. We are all separated aspects of the one divine self.
yes. There is no separation. Well, I I would very much like to go pee and us do another hour and a half. But I want to be sensitive of your time too and respectful of your time. And I mean, obviously, I want to do this again. I got more pictures to go through that will spark more tangents. And I just love your mind and your heart and the way you see things and synthesize things. It really, I can't tell you how much it helps me. It's been 2025 is a crazy year for a lot of people. I'm no exception. Going through some big challenges right now. But then these things happen, these people happen, and they say things, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm not crazy.
No, you're not.
It's all good, man. J- Uh, I'm protected by the power of my positivity.
Yes, yakini,
Right?
yakini. Oh,
Yakini,
yeah.
yakini, man, and we go
Yeah.
forward with joy. So thank you for you just fill my heart up, and I really appreciate you so much. Please come back and do this again because there's so much more of just like specific little Egyptian teachings that you
Well,
have such great insight to.
anytime I'm in, I love talking to you. You're fantastic, really, truly.
Well, thank you.
Beautiful.
It's been such a dream come true. Meeting you and Stephen and doing the tour with Egypt, doing the tour in Egypt with you, and Stephen's not doing anymore. Like
I
this is
know.
really big. So thank you, and please come back again.
Thank you. So much appreciated, and I feel so honored to have had this time with you. Really, seriously.
Thank you. And I'm going to leave everybody with the prayer that Hakeim taught us, and I always say it: the light surrounds me, the light comes through me. I am the light.
Yeah.
Yakini, yakini.
Yakini, yakini.
Bless you, Patricia.